So, when you hear the word economics, what's the first thing that pops into your head? Money, maybe? The stock market? Well, what if I told you that economics is something you're actually doing every single day, from the moment you wake up? Let's dig into what that really means. You're scrolling through your phone first thing in the morning. Do you share that photo? Do you drop a comment on that article? Or maybe later tonight, are you going to start that brand new series everyone is buzzing about, or just rewatch an old favorite for the 10th time? And it's not just the small stuff. Maybe you're facing a huge choice. Do you take on that extra major, even if it means, another whole semester of tuition and late night studying? Here's the thing. Every single one of those questions, from the totally trivial to the absolutely life-changing, is an economic decision. Because at its very core, economics isn't really about money. It's about making choices. So, why? Why are we constantly forced to make all these choices, big and small? Well, it all boils down to one simple, universal, and totally unavoidable problem. And there you have it. This is the textbook definition, but it's a good one. Economics is the study of how we humans make decisions in the face of scarcity. Those two words right there, decisions and scarcity. That's the whole game. Okay, so what exactly is scarcity? It's really just the simple fact that we are a species with seemingly infinite wants, living in a world with very finite resources. We always want more than we actually have. You could say it's the fundamental tension of just being alive. And look, this is not some abstract philosophical idea. Scarcity is painfully real, and it has absolutely devastating consequences. For millions of people, the lack of basic resources like food or shelter or healthcare is their daily reality. That right there is scarcity in its most brutal form. The resources we need to produce pretty much anything are limited. Labor, tools, land, raw materials. There's just only so much to go around. But the most critical, scarce resource of all, the one we all share equally, whether you're rich or poor, time. Every single one of us gets just 24 hours in a day, and you can't make more of it no matter what. All right, so if scarcity is the big problem, how do we fight back? How do we get more from the limited resources we have? Well, humanity's first huge breakthrough came way back in the 18th century with a powerfully simple idea. This guy, the economist Adam Smith, wrote a landmark book called The Wealth of Nations, and in it, he introduced the world to this idea. It's called the division of labor, and it literally changed everything about how we produce things. Now, to explain it, Smith used this brilliant example, a pin factory. He looked at what happens if you have just one worker trying to do every single step. From drawing the wire to sharpening the point to putting the head on, all the way to putting it in the package, that one person doing it all might be able to make, at most, maybe 20 pins in a whole day. But what if you change the whole process? What if you take 10 workers and you have each one specialize in just one or two of the 18 different tasks it takes to make a pen? Well, the output just explodes. Those 10 specialized workers could now produce, get this, 48,000 pins in one day. That's not just a small improvement. That is a full-on productivity revolution. So why does this work so incredibly well? Well, Smith pointed out 3 key reasons: focus, mastery, and scale. First, people can focus on what they're naturally good at. Second, they achieve mastery through repetition, getting faster and better. And third, businesses can scale up their operations, which lowers the average cost of each thing they make. I mean, just think about the smartphone in your pocket. It wasn't made by one person, right? It was made by a global supply chain of thousands of specialists, each mastering one tiny piece of the puzzle. That's the division of labor on a global scale. Okay, so now that we have this incredibly complex, super specialized world, how do we even start to understand it all? Well, economists basically use 2 different lenses to try and see the bigger picture. This analogy is perfect. Think of microeconomics as the microscope. It zooms way in on the individual parts, like a single family's budget or one company's pricing strategy. Macroeconomics, on the other hand, is the telescope. It zooms way out to look at the whole system. Big issues like national economic growth, unemployment, and inflation. You absolutely need both to get the full picture. Now let's see how this all connects. Using those micro and macro lenses brings up a really fascinating question. How do you get all those individual people and those huge big picture forces to actually work together? How do you coordinate millions of people to deal with scarcity? Historically, 2 main models have kind of emerged. On one side, you have a command economy, where all the decisions are centralized. A government authority decides what gets produced, what it costs, and who does what job. Think of ancient Egypt building the pyramids. Then, on the other side, you have a market economy, where decisions are decentralized. Private individuals and businesses make their own choices, all based on supply and demand. But of course, in the real world, no country is 100% one or the other. Most modern economies are actually mixed, combining elements of both command and market systems. It's really more of a spectrum. And this table from the Heritage Foundation gives you a great snapshot of that spectrum. It ranks countries on their economic freedom, so things like property rights and how much regulation there is. You can see on one end, the more market-oriented or most free end, you have places like Hong Kong and Singapore. Then way over on the other side, the more command-oriented, least free end, you've got countries like Cuba and North Korea. And the United States, it's definitely over toward the market end, but not right at the very top. And what's wild is that all these different systems are more connected today than they have ever been. Thanks to things like cheaper shipping and, of course, the internet, we've seen this massive trend toward globalization, where goods, services, and information just flow across borders like never before. Which brings us right back to where we started. We began with the basic problem of scarcity, not having enough stuff. But today, a lot of us live in a world of information overload. So I'll leave you with this question. In this new world, with so much at our fingertips, what's the one thing we truly don't have enough of? What is the scarcest resource now?